Youth suicide crisis in America. What's really happening and how we can help. What if I told you that suicide is now the second leading cause of death for young people in America? Not accidents, not illness. A mental health crisis that is completely preventable. Here is what breaks my heart the most about this. Most young people who reach this point genuinely believe nobody around them sees their pain. And most people around them genuinely wish they knew what to do. Today we are going to close that gap. Together. Right now. Hey, welcome back. I am so glad you are here today, and I mean that sincerely. This is one of the most important conversations I think we can have. We are going to talk about the youth suicide crisis in America. What is driving it? What the warning signs look like? And most importantly, what actually helps? Let's get into it. I want to start with the reality of what we are dealing with, because I think a lot of people have heard vague references to a youth mental health crisis without truly understanding the scale of it. And when you understand the scale, everything else in this video will make a lot more sense. Suicide rates among young Americans aged 10 to 24 have increased by 57% between 2007 and 2023. That is not a small statistical blip. That is a generational emergency. Emergency room visits for self-harm among teenage girls have increased by 188%. 1 in 5 high school students seriously considered suicide in the past 12 months. And here's the part that really gets me. Only 1 in 3 young people experiencing suicidal thoughts ever receives any form of professional help. 2 out of 3 are completely alone with this. This is not happening to other people's children in other places. This is happening in every school, every neighborhood, and every family in America right now. When I work with young people in my practice, one of the first things I try to understand is, what is the world actually asking of this person right now? And when you look at what today's teenagers and young adults are navigating, it honestly takes your breath away. This generation has grown up inside a smartphone from childhood, with social media algorithms designed by the smartest engineers in the world specifically to keep them scrolling, comparing, and feeling inadequate. They came of age during a global pandemic that stripped away friendships, milestones, routines, and the sense that the future was predictable. They are entering an economy where a college degree costs a fortune and may not lead anywhere stable. They are watching climate change unfold and genuinely wondering if the world will be livable by the time they are 40. And underneath all of this, the U.S. Surgeon General has formally declared that young people are experiencing a loneliness epidemic. The most digitally connected generation in history is also the loneliest generation in recorded history. That combination is genuinely dangerous. I want to spend a moment on social media specifically, because the research here has become really hard to ignore, and I think a lot of parents and young people still underestimate this connection. Researcher Jonathan Haidt at New York University has spent years documenting what he calls the Great Rewiring of Childhood, the period between 2010 and 2015 when smartphones became ubiquitous among teenagers. Depression, anxiety, and self-harm rates in teenage girls began rising sharply at exactly that moment and have not stopped rising since. Here is the mechanism that matters. Social media does not just show young people content. It shows them a carefully curated highlight reel of everyone else's best moments, most attractive photos, and most exciting experiences, and then it shows them the number of people who liked it. For a developing brain that is already biologically wired to care desperately about social belonging and peer approval, this is not a neutral experience. It is a daily referendum on whether you are good enough, and for millions of young people, the answer coming back feels like no. Okay, this is the part of the video I really want you to pay attention to, whether you are a parent, a friend, a teacher, or a young person watching this yourself. Because one of the biggest barriers to preventing youth suicide is that people around someone who is struggling often say afterward, "I had no idea." So let me give you the real warning signs that research tells us actually matter. Withdrawing from friends and family, not just a moody day, but a sustained pulling away from the people they used to love being around. Giving away meaningful possessions. This one is often missed, but it is significant. Talking about being a burden to others, feeling trapped, or having no reason to continue. Sudden calmness after a period of depression. This can actually signal a decision has been made and can precede an attempt. Changes in sleep, either sleeping constantly or barely sleeping at all. A sudden and intense interest in researching methods, which in the age of smartphones can happen invisibly and quickly. You do not need to be a therapist to notice these things. You just need to be paying attention and willing to ask the question. I hear this from parents and friends all the time. I am scared to ask if they are thinking about suicide because I am afraid I will plant the idea. I need you to hear this clearly, because this is one of the most persistent and most dangerous myths in mental health. Research consistently shows that asking someone directly about suicide does not increase the risk. In fact, it almost always decreases it, because it tells the person that someone sees them, someone cares, and they are not invisible. Here is how you ask it. You sit with them, you make eye contact, and you say, I have been noticing that you seem like you are carrying something really heavy lately. I care about you and I need to ask, are you having any thoughts of hurting yourself or ending your life? Then you stop talking and you listen. You do not minimize. You do not immediately problem solve. You do not panic. You just stay present with them, because your presence in that moment is genuinely the most powerful thing you have. If you are a young person watching this right now, I want to speak directly to you for a moment. What you are feeling is real. The pain is real. The exhaustion is real. The feeling that things will never get better, that is real too. Even though I need you to know it is not accurate. Your brain, when it is in this much pain, genuinely cannot generate the feeling of hope on its own. That is not a character flaw. That is biology. The part of your brain responsible for imagining positive futures actually goes offline under extreme stress and depression. Which means hope is not something you have to manufacture right now. It is something you borrow from someone else until your brain can feel it again on its own. Please let someone in. A parent, a friend, a counselor, a teacher, anyone. Or text 988 right now. Ching out is not weakness. It is the most courageous thing a person can do. As a therapist, I think it is really important that we move beyond awareness and into what the evidence actually tells us helps. Because awareness without action is just heartbreak on a loop. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, has the strongest research base for reducing suicidal thinking in young people. It works by directly targeting the thought patterns that fuel hopelessness and teaching practical skills for managing emotional pain differently. Dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, was specifically developed for people experiencing intense emotional pain and suicidal crises. It teaches distress tolerance, emotional regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness, skills that genuinely change how the nervous system responds to overwhelming situations. But here is the finding that I think matters most. The single greatest protective factor against youth suicide is the consistent presence of at least one caring, non-judgmental adult in a young person's life. Not a perfect adult. Not a trained therapist. Just one person who shows up, pays attention, and does not flinch. You could be that person for someone you know. That is not a small thing. That is everything. I want to give you something practical to take away from this video, because I know that feeling informed without knowing what to do next is its own kind of helplessness. For parents, put your phone down at dinner and ask your teenager one genuinely curious question about their inner world, not their grades or their schedule. Create an environment where difficult emotions are allowed to exist in your home without being immediately fixed, minimized, or punished. For schools, the evidence strongly supports having trained mental health counselors on campus, teaching emotional regulation skills directly in the curriculum, and creating clear and visible pathways for students to ask for help without stigma. For everyone, learn the warning signs, practice asking the direct question, and take any expression of suicidal thinking seriously every single time. Do not wait for certainty. Do not wait for it to get worse. And remove access to lethal means where possible. This single practical step has strong evidence behind it and saves lives. Action taken today matters more than a perfect plan taken too late. Here is what I need you to leave this video knowing. This crisis is real, it is urgent, and it is not inevitable. Mental illness is common. It is painful. It is also treatable. Young people are not fragile. They are incredibly resilient when they have the right support around them. Change, growth, and healing are absolutely possible. Please keep courage. Reach out to someone today. Try one small thing. And if you are struggling right now, please call or text 988. You matter more than you know. Thank you so much for watching today. If this video helped you or someone you love, please share it. You genuinely never know whose life that one share might reach. Subscribe for more practical, research-backed mental health tools every week. Take good care of yourself. And I will see you in the next one. SOS button crisis resources, pin in comments and show in end screen. 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Call or text 988. 24/7, free, confidential crisis text line. Text home to 741741. International Association for Suicide Prevention. https://www.isp.info/resources/crisis_centers.